The alarm bells rang through the colony ship New Dawn. Captain Lee Boram rushed to the bridge, her boots clicking on the metal floor. The massive ship carried 50,000 people to their new home among the stars. They had been traveling for 2 years now, but today something was different. "Captain, you need to see this," said Navigator Oh Min-ho. His young face looked worried as he pointed at the main screen. A huge alien ship floated in the darkness of space. It was 10 times bigger than their colony ship. Strange spikes and weapons covered its dark hull. But something was wrong. The alien ship was not moving. Pieces of metal drifted around it like broken toys. "It looks dead in the water," said Chief Engineer Shin Da-eun. She studied the readings on her screen. "No power signatures. The hull has many holes. Whatever hit this thing hit it hard." Captain Lee stared at the alien warship. In all their years of space travel, humans had never met aliens before. Now their first contact was with a damaged war machine floating in the void. "Are there any life signs?" she asked. Dr. Park Hae-jin checked her medical scanners. "Very faint readings. Maybe 1 or 2 survivors. But, Captain, this is clearly a warship. These aliens might be dangerous." "They might be," Lee agreed. "But if there are survivors, we cannot just leave them to die." Commander Yoon Jae-wook stepped forward. His face was hard with worry. "Captain, we have 50,000 civilians on this ship. We don't know anything about these aliens. They could be killers." "They could be," Lee said again. "But right now, they need help. I'm ordering a rescue mission." Kang Tae-ho was fixing a water pump in Section 7 when the call came. All medical staff and engineers were needed for the rescue mission. He grabbed his medical kit and ran to the shuttle bay. Tae-ho was 28 years old and had been working on colony ships for 6 years. He was good with machines and even better with people. His friends often said he cared too much about everyone around him. The rescue shuttle was small and fast. Tae-ho sat with 5 other crew members as they flew toward the alien ship. Through the small window, he could see the damage up close. Huge holes were torn in the metal. Whatever had attacked this ship had been very powerful. "Remember, we go in fast and get out fast," said the shuttle pilot. "We don't know if this thing is going to blow up." The shuttle docked with a loud clang. The crew put on their spacesuits and opened the airlock. The inside of the alien ship was dark and cold. Their flashlights cut through the blackness as they moved forward. The hallways were much bigger than human ships needed. The ceiling was 3 times taller than normal. Everything was built for creatures much larger than humans. "Over here," called one of the crew members. They found the first alien body in what looked like a control room. It was huge, almost 3 meters tall. 6 arms came from its body and thick armor covered its skin like a shell. The creature's face was long with sharp teeth visible even in death. "They look like warriors," whispered one crew member. They found more bodies as they moved deeper into the ship. All of them were the same, huge, armored, and clearly built for fighting. But these warriors had lost their last battle. "Life signs are coming from up ahead," said Dr. Park through the radio. They followed her scanner readings down a long hallway. At the end, they found a room that looked like a command center. Broken screens and damaged equipment filled the space. And in the center, sitting against a wall, was the largest alien they had seen yet. This one was still alive. It was even bigger than the others, with more complex armor covering its body. Jewels and metal decorations showed this was someone important. Maybe their leader. The alien's 6 arms were folded, and its large eyes watched the humans with intelligence and anger. "Stay back," Commander Yoon ordered. "It could attack." The alien tried to stand but fell back down. Dark blue liquid covered its armor, probably blood. One of its arms hung at a strange angle, clearly broken. The creature looked weak and hurt, but its eyes still burned with pride and rage. Most of the rescue team stayed back with their weapons ready, but Tae-ho stepped forward. He had seen that look before, in the eyes of injured people who were too proud to ask for help. "What are you doing?" Dr. Park whispered. "It's hurt," Tae-ho said simply. He moved slowly toward the alien, his hands visible and empty. The creature's eyes followed him, but it did not try to attack. Tae-ho knelt down, a safe distance away, and opened his medical kit. The alien made a sound, maybe words in its own language. The sounds were deep and harsh, like rocks grinding together. It did not sound friendly. "I know you don't understand me," Tae-ho said softly, "but I want to help." He pulled out a water bottle from his kit. The alien's large eyes focused on it. Immediately, Tejo could see the creature was very thirsty. Slowly, carefully, he placed the bottle on the floor and pushed it toward the alien. The creature looked at the bottle, then at Tejo, then back at the bottle. Its 6 arms tensed as if ready to fight. But after a long moment, one arm reached out and grabbed the water. The alien drank quickly, finishing the whole bottle in seconds. When it was done, it looked at Tejo with what might have been confusion. "Tejo, we need to go," Dr. Park called. "This ship could fall apart any minute." "We're taking it with us," Tejo said. "Are you crazy?" Commander Yoon stepped forward. "That thing is probably their military leader. It could be planning to kill us all." "Look at it," Tejo replied. "It can barely sit up, and even if it wanted to hurt us, we're the only chance it has to survive." The alien watched them argue. Though it could not understand their words, it seemed to understand they were talking about its fate. Its large eyes moved from one human to another, studying each face. "The decision is mine," Captain Lee's voice came through their radios. "Bring the survivor back to the ship, but take all safety measures. Getting the alien to the shuttle was not easy. It was too big and too hurt to walk far. In the end, they had to carry it on a stretcher meant for human patients." The alien did not resist, but its eyes never stopped watching everything around it. As the shuttle flew back to the new dawn, Tejo sat across from their alien passenger. The creature was still staring at him with those large, intelligent eyes. There was something in that stare, not just anger or pride, but something else, maybe curiosity. For the first time in its life, this alien warrior had been shown kindness by an enemy, and it did not know what to think about that. The shuttle docked with the colony ship, and their strange rescue mission was complete. But as Tejo would soon learn, this was not an ending. It was the beginning of something that would change everything. The alien had been on the New Dawn for 3 days now. Dr. Park had set up a special room in the medical bay big enough for the huge creature. Heavy restraints were ready to use, but so far they had not been needed. The alien, who they had learned, was called Veltara, spent most of her time sitting quietly in the corner. She watched everything with those large, sharp eyes. Every person who entered the room felt like they were being studied by a military expert. "She's planning something," Commander Yoon told Captain Lee. "Warriors like this don't just sit around peacefully. She's waiting for the right moment to strike." "Maybe," Captain Lee replied. "But Dr. Park says she's still too weak to be dangerous, and Tejo thinks we can trust her. Tejo is a good man, but he sees the best in everyone. That could get us all killed." Captain Lee understood Yoon's worry. They knew nothing about these aliens except that they built warships. But something about Veltara made her want to take the risk. Tejo visited the medical bay every few hours. He brought food, water, and clean bandages for Veltara's wounds. The alien queen, for they had figured out she was some kind of leader, accepted his help, but never spoke. The ship's computer had been working on translating the alien language. They had recorded hours of Veltara's voice from when she was first rescued. Now they had a basic translation program that could handle simple words. "Hello," Tejo said on his 4th visit, using the computer to translate his words into alien sounds. Veltara's head turned toward him. For a moment, she said nothing. Then she made a series of deep, grinding noises. The computer worked to translate. "Why, help, enemy." It was the first real communication they had shared. Tejo thought about his answer carefully. "You are not my enemy. You are hurt and far from home." Veltara listened to the translation, then made more sounds. The computer struggled, but produced. "Weak thinking. Enemy is enemy. Always." "Maybe that's true where you come from," Tejo said, "but humans try to help people who need help." The alien queen stared at him for a long time. Her 6 arms moved restlessly, as if she was trying to solve a difficult puzzle. Over the next few days, their conversations grew longer. Veltara's injuries were healing, and the translation program was getting better. Slowly, Tejo learned about her people. The Ashkari Empire controlled hundreds of worlds. They were warriors who conquered other species and made them serve. Veltara had been queen of 12 star systems. Her fleet had been the strongest in their part of the galaxy. "What happened to your ship?" Tejo asked during one visit. Veltara's whole body went still. When she spoke, even through the computer translation, her voice carried deep pain. The Devourers came. They eat everything. Worlds, ships, people. My fleet tried to stop them. She paused. My fleet failed. My worlds are gone. My people are food now. Tejo felt a chill run down his back. These Devourers, are they still out there? Always hunting. Always hungry. They find every living thing eventually. The weight of this news was terrible. If Veltara was right, then humanity was not safe. Either. The Devourers would find Earth someday. They would find this colony ship. I'm sorry about your people, Tejo said quietly. Veltara looked at him strangely. Sorry? You did not kill them? No, but I can still be sad that it happened. That's what sorry means to humans. This seemed to confuse the alien queen even more. In her world, you only felt bad about things you had done wrong. The idea that someone could feel pain for a stranger's suffering was new to her. Engineer Kim So-young often joined Tejo on his visits. She was curious about alien technology and asked many questions about Veltara's ship. The queen seemed to respect Kim's intelligence even though she found human machines very simple. Your ship is like a child's toy, Veltara told them one day. Slow, weak, no weapons worth using. It's not built for war, Kim replied. It's built to carry families to new homes. Families? Veltara tilted her large head. You bring young ones to new worlds. Why not send warriors first to make them safe? Because we're not trying to conquer anything. We just want to find a place to live in peace. This idea was even stranger to Veltara than Tejo's kindness. Her people sent armies to take new worlds. The idea of sending families first seemed like madness. But as the days passed, she began to see that humans were different in many ways. They helped each other without expecting rewards. They shared food and resources freely. They even showed kindness to her, their prisoner and enemy. One day, Tejo noticed that Veltara kept touching one of her arms. The area looked different from the rest of her armor-like skin. Does that hurt? He asked. Old wound, she replied. Then, after a pause, she added, Battle scar. May I see it? Veltara hesitated. Then she extended one of her arms toward him. The skin was covered in small, straight scars arranged in neat rows. Each scar was identical to the others, as if they had been cut on purpose. We mark ourselves after each victory, Veltara explained. One scar for each world taken, each enemy fleet destroyed, each species made to serve. Tejo looked at the dozens of scars covering her arm. Each one represented terrible destruction and death. But when he looked at Veltara's face, he saw something he had not expected. Sadness. Do you regret any of them? He asked. A warrior does not regret victory, she said automatically. Then, more quietly, but sometimes I wonder what those worlds would have become if left alone. Tejo rolled up his sleeves and showed Veltara his own scars. They were different, burn marks across both hands and up his arms. I got these saving. People from a reactor fire, he said. 15 families were trapped. We got them all out. Veltara studied his scars carefully. You were injured helping others. Yes. And you did not gain territory or resources from this? No. I just helped because they needed help. The alien queen was quiet for a long time. Finally, she said, Your scars are more honorable than mine. This surprised Tejo. Why do you say that? Mine show things I destroyed. Yours show things you saved. It was the first time Veltara had ever thought about scars that way. In her culture, scars were marks of conquest and power. But looking at Tejo's burns, she saw something different. Marks of sacrifice and love. That night, Veltara sat alone in her room and looked at her arms. Row after row of scars covered her skin, hundreds of them. Each one had once made her proud. Now they just made her tired. She thought about Tejo's gentle hands caring for her wounds. She thought about the water he had given her when she was dying. She thought about Kim's curiosity and Dr. Park's careful medical attention. These humans were weak by Ashkari standards. They had no great weapons or vast fleets. But they had something. Her people had lost long ago. the ability to care about strangers. For the first time in her long life as a warrior queen, Veltara began to wonder if being strong meant something different than she had always believed. And in the darkness of space around them, sensors that no one had noticed were already picking up the signals from the new dawn. The Devourers were coming, drawn by the signs of life and technology. The lessons about kindness and strength were about to be tested in the worst possible way. The warning came at 0300 ship time, when most of the crew was sleeping. Navigator O Min Ho was alone on the night watch when the long-range sensors picked up something terrible. Ships, hundreds of them, moving toward the new dawn at incredible speed. Min Ho's hands shook as he ran the scans again, hoping he was wrong, but the readings were clear. A massive fleet was coming their way, and they would arrive in less than 12 hours. He hit the emergency alarm. Within minutes, Captain Lee was on the bridge in her sleeping clothes, her hair messy but her eyes sharp and alert. "Show me," she ordered. The main screen lit up with the sensor data. Even from this distance, the approaching ships looked wrong. They were not built like normal spacecraft. Instead of smooth metal hulls, these vessels looked like they had grown rather than been built. Strange organic curves and spike-like weapons covered their surfaces. "How many?" Captain Lee asked. 237 confirmed contacts," Minho replied, "maybe more hidden behind the bigger ones." Dr. Park, Commander Yoon, and Chief Engineer Shin Da-eun arrived on the bridge. They all stared at the screen in shocked silence. "Could they be friendly?" Dr. Park asked hopefully. "Ships don't travel in formations like that unless they're planning to attack something," Yoon said grimly. "We need to run. Now." "Run where?" Shin asked. "Our colony ship can't outrun military vessels. We're too big and too slow." Captain Lee thought fast. They were trapped in empty space with nowhere to hide. Their ship had some small defensive weapons, but nothing that could fight a whole fleet. "Get me Veltara," she ordered. 10 minutes later, the alien queen stood in the bridge's conference room. She had to duck to fit through the doorway, and her 6 arms barely fit around the small table. But when she saw the sensor readings on the screen, her whole body went rigid with fear. "Devourers," she whispered through the translator. "Are you sure?" Captain Lee asked. "I have fought them many times. Those are their ships." Veltara pointed at the screen with one of her arms. "See how they move together? Like a pack of hunters. And the way their hulls curve, they grow their ships from living metal that eats other ships." "Can we fight them?" Commander Yoon asked. Veltara made a sound that the translator turned into bitter laughter. "My fleet had 300 warships. Each one was 10 times stronger than your colony ship. The Devourers destroyed us all." Silence filled the room. 50,000 people on the new dawn, and there was no way to save them. "What do they want?" Captain Lee asked. "Everything," Veltara replied. "They consume all organic matter to make more of themselves. Your people will be turned into food and fuel. Your ship will be broken down to build new Devourer vessels. There has to be something we can do," Taeho said. He had been quietly listening from the corner. "Some weakness we can use." Veltara looked at him sadly. "You still think kindness can solve all problems, but some enemies cannot be reasoned with. Some fights cannot be won with gentle words." "Then we fight," Commander Yoon said firmly. "We may not win, but we don't have to make it easy for them." Captain Lee nodded. "All right. We have 11 hours before they get here. I want every weapon we have ready to fire. Evacuate the civilian sections and get everyone into the emergency shelters, and send a message to Earth. If we don't make it, at least they'll know what's coming." The next few hours passed in desperate preparation. The crew worked to arm their ship as best they could. The colony vessel had never been designed for war, but they managed to set up some basic defenses. Veltara helped where she could, sharing everything she knew about Devourer tactics. Her knowledge was incredibly valuable, but it only made their situation seem more hopeless. "They will send small ships first to test your defenses," she explained to the bridge crew. "Then the big ships will close in and begin the feeding process. They will try to take your ship apart slowly, keeping as many people alive as possible." "Why keep us alive?" Dr. Park asked, though she looked like she didn't want to know the answer. "Fresh organic matter works better than dead tissue. They prefer to consume living beings." Kim So-young, who had been working on the weapons systems, suddenly looked up from her computer. Wait, you said they prioritize living beings, right? What if we could make them think the ship was empty? Impossible, Veltara replied. Their sensors can detect life signs through any kind of shielding we could build. Not through our shielding, Kim said with growing excitement. Through yours. What if we use technology from your ship to hide our people? Veltara considered this. Some of my ship's systems might still work, but even if we could hide most of your people, the Devourers would still investigate. They are very thorough. So we give them something else to chase, Tae-ho said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at him. You said they prioritize certain targets. What would they want more than a colony ship full of humans? Veltara's eyes widened as she understood. A living Ashkari queen. To the Devourers, I would be the greatest prize they could find. My genetic material could let them build stronger ships, smarter warriors. Then we use that, Captain Lee said. You take a small ship and lead them away from us. That would be suicide, Dr. Park protested. Yes, Veltara agreed calmly. But it would save your people. The Devourers would follow me instead of attacking your colony ship. Commander Yoon frowned. Why would you do that? We're not your people. Veltara was quiet for a moment. Then she looked at Tae-ho. Your people showed me kindness when I was their prisoner. You could have left me to die in space, but you saved me instead. Now I can repay that debt. This isn't about debt, Tae-ho said firmly. And you're not going alone. What do you mean? Captain Lee asked. I mean someone has to pilot the ship. Veltara is still hurt, and she doesn't know our systems well enough to run everything alone. Absolutely not, Dr. Park said. Tae-ho, you're not a fighter. You're an engineer and a medic. Which is exactly why Veltara needs me. Who else is going to keep the ship running while she handles the tactics? Captain Lee studied the young man's face. She could see his fear, but also his determination. Tae-ho, you understand this is probably a one-way trip? I understand, but someone has to do it, and I'm the one Veltara trusts most. Other crew members began volunteering as well. Navigator Minho offered to help with piloting. Engineer Shin said they would need someone who really understood the ship's systems. Even Dr. Park volunteered to go along as a medic. No, Captain Lee said firmly. I need most of you here, but... She paused, thinking hard. A small volunteer crew might actually improve your chances. Tae-ho, pick 2 others. That's all we can spare. As the hours ticked by, the crew prepared for the desperate plan. They modified the fastest shuttle the New Dawn had, adding better engines and shields. It would not last long against the Devourer fleet, but it might last long enough. Veltara spent time alone in her room, preparing for what she believed would be her final battle. She had led armies across the galaxy and conquered entire star systems. But she had never fought for something like this before. Not for conquest or glory, but to protect people who had shown her unexpected kindness. She looked at the scars on her arms one more time. Soon, she thought, she would add one final mark. Not for a world conquered, but for a world saved. The Devourer fleet was only 3 hours away now. On the bridge of the New Dawn, Captain Lee watched the approaching ships and tried not to think about all the ways their desperate plan could fail. But in the shuttle bay, Tae-ho and his small volunteer crew were making final preparations. They had chosen Navigator Minho for his piloting skills and Engineer So-young for her knowledge of ship systems. It was a tiny force to face an entire fleet of alien destroyers. But sometimes, Tae-ho thought as he checked the shuttle's systems one last time, the smallest acts of courage could change everything. Outside, the Devourer ships drew closer, their hunger growing as they sensed the life aboard the human vessel. They had no idea that their greatest prize, an Ashkari queen, was about to fly straight toward them. The trap was set. Now they would see if kindness and sacrifice were stronger than endless hunger and destruction. The shuttle bay was filled with nervous energy as the final preparations were made. The modified shuttle sat in the middle of the bay, looking small and fragile compared to the massive Devourer ships approaching on the sensors. Tae-ho ran through the systems checklist one more time. Engineer Kim So-young was installing the last of the improved shield generators, while Navigator Oh Min-ho tested the flight controls. The shuttle was as ready as they could make it. Veltara stood beside the shuttle, checking her equipment. She had refused to wear human armor, saying it would slow her down. Instead, she wore only her natural chitinous plates and carried ancient Ashkari weapons that had survived the destruction of her ship. "The quantum beacon is installed," Kim reported, wiping sweat from her forehead. "But I still don't understand how it works. It sends a signal across space instantly," Veltara explained. "All Ashkari queens carry one. It tells other fleets where we are if we need help." "But your fleet is gone," Minho pointed out. "Yes, but the signal reaches farther than just my ships. Other queens, other fleets might hear it." Veltara paused, though they probably think I am already dead. Captain Lee's voice came over the intercom. "Devourer fleet will be in weapons range in 45 minutes. Are you ready?" Taeho looked at his small team. Kim was scared but trying to hide it. Minho was focused on his instruments, running calculations in his head. Veltara stood perfectly still, like a statue preparing for battle. "As ready as we'll ever be," Taeho replied. "Remember, your job is to draw them away from the colony ship. Don't try to be heroes. Lead them on a chase, activate the beacon, and then get out of there if you can." "Understood, Captain." But everyone in the shuttle bay knew the truth. This was a suicide mission. The best they could hope for was to save the new dawn before the Devourers destroyed them. Dr. Park appeared at Taeho's side. "I've loaded the shuttle with every medical supply I could fit, and..." She handed him a small device. "Personal emergency beacon. If by some miracle you survive and get separated, this will help us find you." "Thank you," Taeho said, clipping the beacon to his belt. Commander Yoon approached Veltara. The two warriors looked at each other for a moment. Despite their earlier conflicts, there was respect in both their eyes now. "I was wrong about you," Yoon said simply. "Good hunting, Queen Veltara." "And I was wrong about humans," she replied. "You are not weak. You are strong in ways my people never understood." The shuttle's engines began warming up. It was time to go. Taeho climbed into the pilot's seat, with Minho beside him as co-pilot. Kim took the engineer station in the back. Veltara had to squeeze into a seat designed for smaller humans, her 6 arms barely fitting in the space. "New Dawn Control, this is Shuttle 7 requesting permission to launch," Taeho said into his radio. "Permission granted, Shuttle 7. Good luck out there." The shuttle bay doors opened, revealing the star-filled darkness of space. In the distance, the Devourer fleet was visible as a cluster of moving lights, growing larger every minute. Taeho engaged the engines and the shuttle shot out into space. Behind them, the New Dawn began implementing its side of the plan, shutting down all non-essential systems and using the salvaged Ashkari technology to hide its life signs. "There," Veltara pointed at the sensor screen. "The lead ships are spreading out to surround your colony vessel. We must get their attention before they get too close." Minho adjusted their course to intercept the nearest Devourer ships. "How do we make sure they notice us?" "Ashkari quantum signatures are unmistakable," Veltara said. "As soon as I activate my beacon, every Devourer in the fleet will know I'm here." The first alien ships were now visible without sensors, dark. Twisted shapes that seemed to writhe and shift as they moved. They looked more like living creatures than machines, which Taeho supposed they were. "Multiple contacts changing course," Kim reported from the engineering station. "They're definitely interested in us now." Veltara's hand hovered over the beacon control. "Once I activate this, there will be no hiding. They will hunt us until we are dead or they are." "Do it," Taeho said firmly. Veltara pressed the control. The IB effect was immediate and dramatic. Every Devourer ship in the fleet suddenly changed direction, turning toward the tiny shuttle like hungry predators scenting prey. The ships that had been moving to surround the New Dawn broke formation and raced toward this much more valuable target. "It's working," Minho said with excitement. "They're following us." "Now comes the hard part," Veltara warned. "We must stay alive long enough for help to arrive. If help is coming at all." The chase began in earnest. Taeho pushed the shuttle's engines to maximum power, weaving between asteroids and debris as the Devourer ships closed in. The alien vessels were fast and maneuverable, but the human shuttle was smaller and harder to hit. Weapons fire lit up the space around them. The Devourers were not trying to destroy the shuttle. They wanted to capture it intact, but even their non-lethal weapons could tear the small craft apart if they connected. "Shields down to 60%, Kim called out as another energy blast struck them. "There's a debris field ahead," Minho pointed at the navigation screen. "We could try to lose them in there." "Do it," Taeho agreed. They dove into a field of wreckage from some ancient space battle. Broken ships and scattered metal provided cover, but also made navigation treacherous. The Devourer ships followed, their organic hulls sliding through, the debris like serpents. "They're hurting us," Veltara observed, "driving us toward their bigger ships." She was right. The smaller Devourer vessels were not trying to catch them directly. Instead, they were forcing the shuttle toward the massive flagship at the center of their fleet. "That's the Hive ship," Veltara explained, "where their queen lives. If they can bring me there alive, they will use my genetic material to create a new breed of Ashkari Devourer hybrids." The thought made Taeho's skin crawl. "Then we don't let them take you alive." "Agreed. But first, we see if the beacon has reached anyone who might help." They burst out of the debris field with the Devourer fleet in hot pursuit. The shuttle's shields were failing and the engines were beginning to overheat. They had minutes, maybe less, before the alien ships overwhelmed them. "Anything on the quantum channels?" Veltara asked anxiously. Kim checked her instruments. "I'm picking up some kind of response signal. Very faint, but getting stronger." "Where?" Minho demanded. "Multiple sources. Coming from—" Kim's eyes widened. "From everywhere. Dozens of signals, all converging on our position." Veltara made a sound of amazement. "The fleet. They heard the beacon. They're coming." "Who's coming?" Taeho asked, trying to avoid another barrage of Devourer weapons. "Everyone," Veltara said with growing wonder. "Ashkari fleets, yes, but others too. Species we have fought alongside before. The beacon doesn't just call for help, it tells them who is calling." The first Allied ship appeared as a flash of light, dropping out of hyperspace directly in front of the Devourer flagship. It was an Ashkari vessel, sleek and deadly, and it immediately opened fire on the surprised Devourers. Then more ships appeared, dozens of them, from species Taeho had never seen before. The cavalry had arrived, and they were angry. The space battle that followed was unlike anything in recorded history. Ships from a dozen different civilizations fought together against the Devourer fleet, united by their respect for the queen who had once protected them all. But the Devourers were not finished. Even as their fleet took heavy losses, they continued to pursue the shuttle. Their hunger for Veltara overrode even their survival instincts. "The Hive ship is still coming," Kim warned, "and our engines are about to—" 3 weeks had passed since the battle with the Devourer fleet. The New Dawn now floated peacefully beside the massive Ashkari flagship Eternal Victory, their hulls connected by boarding tubes that allowed people to move freely between the ships. Taeho stood in the medical bay of the Ashkari vessel, watching Veltara complete her recovery. The alien queen's injuries had been severe, but Ashkari medicine was far advanced beyond human technology. Her damaged arms had been healed, though new scars marked where the weapon's energy had burned her. "The doctors say I will be fully healed in another few days," Veltara told him through the translator. The device was much better now, with help from both human and Ashkari programmers. "That's good news," Taeho replied. "Captain Lee is planning a celebration once you're released. The whole crew wants to thank you properly." Veltara tilted her large head thoughtfully. "They should not thank me. I only did what honor required." "Honor?" Taeho smiled. 3 weeks ago, you told me that helping enemies was weak thinking." 3 weeks ago, I believed many things that were wrong," she admitted. "Your people have taught me that strength comes in forms I never understood." Through the medical bay's large windows, they could see both fleets working together. Ashkari engineers were helping to repair damage to the New Dawn, while human technicians shared their knowledge of colony ship systems. The cooperation was remarkable, especially considering that first contact had only happened a month ago. Admiral Kethvar entered the medical bay, his own 6 arms moving in what Taeho had learned was a respectful greeting. The admiral was nearly as large as Veltara, but his armor was different, marked with symbols of command rather than royal heritage. "Queen Veltara, the Council of Fleets is ready for your address," he said formally. "Address?" Taeho asked. All the species that answered the beacon have sent representatives, Veltara explained. They want to hear about what happened here, about humans. They made their way to the flagship's main conference room, which had been modified to accommodate representatives from dozens of different species. Tejo felt very small and out of place among the assembled aliens, but Veltara had insisted he attend. Captain Lee was there as well, along with Dr. Park and several other senior officers from the New Dawn. They sat at a special table designed for human-sized beings, surrounded by much larger alien delegates. The conference room fell silent as Veltara took her place at the center of the chamber. When she spoke, her words were translated into dozens of languages simultaneously. "Fellow leaders," she began, "I called you here to witness something unprecedented in galactic history. I called you here to meet humanity." Murmurs rippled through the assembled delegates. Many of them had heard stories about the battle, but few understood the full significance of what had happened. "For 300 years I have led the Ashkari Empire. We have conquered worlds, enslaved species, and built our strength through force and fear. I believed this was the only way to survive in a hostile galaxy." She paused, her eyes finding Tai-Ho in the crowd. "Then I met a human named Kang Tai-Ho. When I was wounded and helpless, he could have left me to die. Instead, he gave me water. He tended my injuries. He showed me kindness when I was his enemy." More murmurs from the delegates, some skeptical, others curious. "You might think this was weakness," Veltara continued. "You might think, as I once did, that mercy toward enemies is foolish. But I have learned something important. The human who showed me kindness also flew directly toward a devourer hive ship to save others. His compassion did not make him weak. It made him brave beyond measure." Admiral Kethvar stood and addressed the assembly. "The Queen speaks truly. I have reviewed the battle recordings. The human rescue team could have abandoned Queen Veltara and saved themselves. Instead, they chose to risk everything to protect people they had never met." A delegate from one of the reptilian species raised a clawed hand. "This is all very touching, but what does it change? The galaxy is still dangerous. The devourers are still out there. Kindness will not stop them from eating our worlds." "You are right," Veltara agreed. "Kindness alone cannot stop the devourers. But the humans showed me something else. The power of cooperation without conquest." She gestured toward the human delegation. "These people traveled across space not to conquer new worlds, but to find empty planets where they could build peaceful homes. They shared their technology freely, asked for nothing in return, and risked their lives to save someone who could have been their enemy." Another delegate, this one from a species that looked like living crystals, spoke up. "What are you proposing, Queen Veltara?" "I am proposing that we learn from humanity's example. For too long we have competed with each other, fought over resources, conquered the weak. But the humans have shown us a different way." Veltara walked to the center of the room, her voice growing stronger with conviction. "I am disbanding the Ashkari Empire." The room erupted in shocked voices. Even Tejo could not believe what he was hearing. "Instead," Veltara continued over the noise, "I propose we create something new. An alliance built not on conquest, but on cooperation. A federation, where species work together as equals, protecting each other against threats like the devourers." "This is madness," protested a delegate from the militaristic Vorgan clans. "Empires provide order. Without strong leaders, there is only chaos." "There is another way," Captain Lee said, standing up from the human table. "On Earth, we have many different nations and cultures. We don't always agree, but we have learned to work together when facing common threats. We have built peace through understanding, not through force." Dr. Park stood as well. "Our medical knowledge could help species suffering from diseases. Our agricultural techniques could feed hungry worlds. Our technology could improve life for everyone. But only if we share freely, as partners, not as conquerors or conquered." Veltara nodded approvingly. "This is what I mean. Humans offer their knowledge not to gain power over others, but to help others become stronger. They understand that lifting others up does not make you weaker. It makes everyone stronger." The crystal delegate pulsed with changing colors as it considered this. "You speak of ideals, Queen Veltara, but how would such an alliance actually work? Who would make decisions? Who would lead? No one species would lead, Veltara replied. Each world, each civilization would govern itself, but we would share resources, technology, and protection. When the Devourers attack one world, they attack all of us. Admiral Kethvar stepped forward. The Ashkari Third Fleet stands ready to support this new alliance. We have seen the power of cooperation in battle. It is stronger than any empire. Slowly, other delegates began to speak in support. Not all of them. Some species were too proud or too afraid to abandon the old ways. But enough voices rose in agreement to make it clear that something historic was happening. Engineer Kim So-young, who had been quietly listening, suddenly spoke up. There's something else. Our long-range sensors detected more Devourer fleets moving through this sector, much larger than the one we just fought. If we're going to survive, we need to work together. This sobered the assembly. The threat was real and immediate. Then we are decided, Veltara announced. Let this day mark the beginning of the Galactic Cooperative Alliance. Not an empire built on conquest, but a federation built on the human principles of cooperation, compassion, and mutual aid. The formal ceremony took hours, as each species agreed to the new alliance in their own traditional manner. But finally, it was done. The most powerful military force in the galaxy had just transformed itself into something unprecedented, a truly peaceful federation. As the delegates dispersed to carry the news to their home worlds, Veltara found herself alone with Teho and the other humans. I still cannot believe you did this, Teho said. You gave up an empire. I gave up nothing, Veltara replied. I traded conquest for something much more valuable. The chance to build instead of destroy, to protect instead of dominate. She looked out the window at the new dawn, where human families were visible through the transparent sections, living their daily lives in peace. Your species taught me that true strength is not the power to take whatever you want. True strength is the power to give freely, to protect the weak, and to show mercy to your enemies. Captain Lee smiled. And your species taught us that we're not alone in the galaxy, that there are others out there who can learn, grow, and change. As the days passed, news of the Galactic Cooperative Alliance spread throughout known space. Some species joined immediately, eager to be part of this new way of thinking. Others remained suspicious, preferring the old systems of empire and conquest. But the idea had been planted. The seed of cooperation that Teho had accidentally sown with his simple act of kindness was growing into something that would reshape the galaxy. 6 months later, Teho found himself serving as humanity's first ambassador to the Alliance Council. The job was challenging but rewarding, as more and more species chose cooperation over conquest. And Veltara, no longer a queen but now the Alliance's first director of defense, had learned to add new kinds of scars to her arms. Marks not of worlds conquered, but of worlds saved and species helped. The galaxy was still dangerous. The Devourers were still out there, and there were other threats yet to be.